Hello, hello. All right, hello, people. Hello, lovely people. Hello, lovely people. It's Victoria. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. So I'm actually refilming this video. I filmed it the other day, but I decided to do a take two because one, the audio was peaking a lot, even though I literally had my headphones on and I heard it peaking. I just didn't adjust it enough. So I figured the audio probably wouldn't be great, but also I wanted to be a little more careful with my words when telling this story. For some reason, I anticipate this being kind of controversial. It involves a lot of things that I witnessed and things that affected me directly, and just we're going to get into it. But I'm going to be telling the story of basically the most, as I crack my knuckles, basically the most toxic boy mom I've ever interacted with. And honestly, kind of the only toxic boy mom I've really seen in real life and really interacted with. And she expressed it in an interesting way. That is a label I have put on her retroactively, considering her behavior that I'm going to talk about. Specifically, in comparison to the way that I saw her treat her daughters, and then the way that I saw her justify her son's very odd behavior towards me. We're going to get into it. But before we do, if you're new here, hello, I'm Victoria. I'm a singer-songwriter, and I make content about whatever I feel like talking about whenever I feel like talking about it. I've decided that at some point I'm probably going to start posting on a second channel. I have made said second channel, but I've just kind of decided I'll just put all my energy and creativity into this one and kind of just see how much I can expand it, especially like within the year, and see how much I can grow. It might be better to, grow within one niche on each channel, but like I've done a lot of both the music and personal stuff and the commentary, and I do just kind of like having it all in one place. So maybe it might just stay that way. I don't even know. The whole like making a second channel thing I've gone back and forth on it quite a bit, but please consider subscribing if you haven't already. If you have, thank you so much. I appreciate you. Please consider hitting the notification bell to be notified when I post, which is pretty freaking often these days. I post short form content every single day. At least I'm trying to. I think I may have missed one day where I just posted a long form video, but for the most part, I am posting short form every single day. I'm trying to do some kind of singing content. It's pretty much always singing content, and trying to do that every day. And then, yeah, I've started clipping my videos and posting shorts of the long form videos as well. So a lot of content coming your way. I think that's going to be something I do regularly from now on to just kind of get the most bang for my buck out of the time and energy I spent making the long form videos. But I talk about everything from, story times, rants, sobriety updates, to commentary on internet culture, media, and just whatever I feel like talking about. A little bit of consumer advocacy, irresponsible advertising mixed in there. And maybe at some point I have some political topics on my giant list of videos. But I do like this being kind of a form of escape for me. But also it's a form of catharsis for me to talk about things that make me mad. So we will see. So I did not script this video really, but I have filmed this already. So I do have kind of an idea of where I want to go from here. When you get up to get lotion and realize there's a thing of it right in front of you. But hand sounds. This story is going to have kind of a few little chapters, okay? Also, if you for some reason are watching my channel and you recognize yourself in this story, just know, well, okay, the two girls that I was friends with in this story, please know I have no ill will towards you. I have nothing but empathy towards you. I have no ill intent or anything. I just wanted to share this because I witnessed a lot of it and it kind of affected me. Basically, I was friends with these two girls in middle school. And they were like two of my closest friends. They're all, in my friend group. My dad wasn't the biggest fan of them because it didn't seem like they were taught certain manners. Like I remember him dropping one of them off after she spent the night and her not saying thank you. She was just like, see you later, dudes. And he was like, that was rude. So I kind of noticed that it seemed like they were raised differently than me, but I, wanted to keep an open mind because it was kind of hard for me to make friends. This one time that I was at their house, their mom worked at like a gas station convenience store, and she, I think, regularly worked nights, so she was home during the day. And I think she was making dinner in the kitchen or something. And one of my friends, I think, said something mean to her sister. They had like 2 younger sisters and an older brother. So I think there are 5 kids total. But she said something mean to one of the younger sisters. I don't remember what she said. I don't know what it was. But her mom, reacted to that by taking the wooden spoon that she was holding and smacked her very hard on the wrist, on the bone of the wrist. And I remember my friend like scream crying, and she just seemed to be in really bad pain. I remember she went to her dad and then came back and was like, Dad said it looked like you bruised my bone. And the mom was saying like, oh, you're being dramatic. I still haven't heard you apologize to your sister, and just seemed to show no remorse for that. Because it seemed like they were kind of raised a little differently than me, I was 12. Yeah, I was 12. My 12-year-old self was like, oh, maybe this is normal in their house, But it was upsetting to see my friend upset. It affected me. So I went home and I told my dad what had happened, and he was appalled. He was absolutely appalled and disgusted. And for context, my dad grew up in the 70s. He was a kid in the 70s, and my grandparents, God bless their soul, my paternal grandparents are both passed away now, but they were wonderful, wonderful people. But my grandpa, like, would physically discipline my dad. Like, my dad got spanked with a belt. Like, he got, the physical discipline that was pretty customary at that time. So he's familiar with that, but he heard what had happened. He was just like, that is not normal. That is not okay. That's not acceptable. That's not discipline. So a big reason why I wanted to refilm this video was because in my original thing of it, I used the term abuse. I used the term physically abused. And I do want to be careful with that, because in my opinion, it is abuse considering it was on the bone. I think if it was like on her butt or something, I think it'd be a little different. And obviously when you're doing that on someone's butt or whatever, it's still meant to cause pain, but it just seemed like a very quick reaction that seemed to just be like trying to cause a lot of pain to her child. And I obviously am not a parent, and maybe people will have different opinions about it, but according to what I heard from my parents about the situation, and also just in my gut and stuff, it just seemed like an overreaction that kind of fell outside the realm of discipline. But I do want to be careful using a word as strong as abuse, considering it's not my personal experience. In my opinion, that is what it seemed like, but I don't want to say that authoritatively as if that is a fact. But so I told my dad what had happened. He said that wasn't okay, and I was kind of like, I don't know what to do. And he basically, I'm trying to get this lotion out of here. He basically said, like, this isn't something that you can come forward about on your own, but you should suggest to your friend, and you should try to encourage her to tell someone about it, tell a teacher or something like that, because that is something people should be made aware of. But this isn't the kind of storm you should be starting on your own without anyone knowing. It's not your story to tell and come forward about. So I said that to her, and I suggested, like, maybe you should tell someone that that's how your mom disciplines you, because I don't really think that's super normal. But she refused, and she said no. And then I kind of let it go. The 2 of them ended up going to a different high school than me, so we kind of fell out of touch after middle school, and I think we kind of were drifting apart anyway. But their older brother, he was kind of around and stuff, and we had interacted a bit. I beat him at arm wrestling one time because I used my left arm. I'm left-handed, and he was right-handed, and that was a fun moment. I am pretty impressive with my left arm when it comes to arm wrestling, because it's obviously my stronger side, and I tend to beat people. Obviously, if it was like Vin Diesel or something, probably not. But anyway, Cut to senior year of high school. I've talked before about how I was in my stir crazy phase. I wanted to hook up with people. I wanted to experiment sexually more because I had gotten out of my relationship that I had been in for like 10 months. Yeah, like 10 months. And it wasn't really super happy. Didn't have a lot of sexual enjoyment. I obviously, was 17, and there was a lot for me to grow into and realize about myself, and also like the mental development that allows you to like relax and stuff that enables you to actually enjoy sex. That was a whole thing that would come later, but I just wanted to explore, wanted to hook up, I wanted to like take more risks and things like that. And I think the brother and I had been like following each other on Instagram for a long time, and I don't know what it was. I'm pretty sure I reached out to him and we started talking, and we basically arranged to like hook up. He like picked me up at my house and drove me like a while. It was like a long drive. They lived like way like in a different city, but he drove. I'm pretty sure he took like the family van. It was this giant van, and we were at his house when no one else was there, and we like hooked up a bit, and it was fine. And I think he got me an Uber back, I'm pretty sure. No one else knew about the situation. I hadn't really talked to his sisters in a while. Just, it was something that we kind of kept low key. I didn't necessarily think I was doing anything wrong or, breaking any kind of girl code or anything like that. I just knew it would probably be kind of complicated and weird, and they probably wouldn't be the biggest fan of it. And I wasn't planning on it becoming a big thing. I knew I didn't want to be in a relationship with this person. That's something, you can have your opinions about. I probably wouldn't do that today, but everything was fine. So then a few months later, I have started college, and this dude and I continue to kind of DM and text and stuff, and we're kind of flirty, and we agree, we don't want a serious relationship, and we're just kind of having fun and probably not going to meet up again. But he seems to have like feelings for me. He was saying basically that I was like special to him, and definite vibes there, but we seemed okay keeping it at a certain place. But then he kind of got into this pattern of, I don't know if it was the same girlfriend, but he would get into this pattern of he'd get back with his girlfriend and then be like, oh, we have to just be friends. We can't really talk anymore because I have a girlfriend now. And I'd be like, oh, okay. And then literally like within the week, it'd be like, oh, my girlfriend and I broke up. We can talk again. And then it'd be like a few more days. Oh, we're together again. I don't know if it's the same girlfriend, or he would just be like, I have a girlfriend now. So I don't know if it was the same one or if he was getting different ones or what, but he was a very back and forth dater. And he seemed pretty interested in having a serious relationship with someone because he kept falling back into one. But it was this back and forth thing that had been going on, I'm pretty sure, for like weeks. And it wasn't tremendously affecting me, but it was just kind of annoying. And so I just signaled, I was like, hey, I think we just need to stop doing this back and forth thing. I think we just need a break from each other in general. I just need, some space. I was in a very transitional period in my life anyway, being freshman year of college. I just need to kind of move on. I'm just kind of tired of this back and forth, whatever it was. I wish I remembered more specifically how this interaction went, but I remember he just was not happy about it. He didn't want to lose me. I don't remember if he had just told me that they got back together or that they broke up or what, but I think they had broken up and he wanted to like talk again or something. And he was like, it's different this time and you're special to me and this isn't going to happen again and whatever. And I was just like, I kind of maintain my boundary. And I was like, I just don't really want to do this. I am not planning on things being serious with you really anyway, but this is just kind of a lot of drama and it's just really back and forth. And it seems like, you'll mean this now, but in a few days, I'm just kind of expecting you to go back to her, whatever. So I just kind of laid down what I thought was the end of the conversation. And then I turned my phone on silent. I think I remember plugging it into the wall. I remember putting it on the charger. And I may have even like left my dorm to go out and about and kind of do things on my own for a bit. Or I was just away from my phone for a while. It was like on silent, was on the charger. I was away from it. I come back a while later and this dude was blowing up my phone. He was blowing up my phone. The classic kind of manipulator of like at first being like, please talk to me. Please don't leave me. Please don't abandon me. Please don't blah, blah, blah. And then getting angrier and angrier. And then being like, I'm going to tell my sisters what we did. I'm going to tell them what happened. And I'm like, that's fucking weird, but okay. Like, do what you got to do. I didn't respond yet, but because I was reading all this at once, there's just like wall of text. And he's like, I'm going to tell my sisters, and you don't even care about me, and you're a horrible person, whatever. But then he sent this very vague, very alarming message. And it was something like, if you don't respond to me, I'm going to do something I should have done a long time ago. It may have even had something of like, I didn't want to do it, but you left me no choice, or something like that. Very vague, very concerning. And it seemed, intentionally concerning. I respond, and I was like, what do you mean by that? He responds again in typical manipulator fashion of like, what do you even care? You don't care about me. Don't even pretend you care about me. And I was like, I care about what you're going to do. I care about what you mean by this. What do you mean by this? And refused to tell me. And I think even continued like attacking me. I gave him an ultimatum multiple times. I think at least 2, possibly even 3 times. I said, you need to tell me what you mean by that right now, or I'm going to call the police. I'm going to send an ambulance to your house. And for context, I've mentioned before, I think in my high school memories that live in my head rent-free video, I mentioned when I was 16, I had sent someone that I wasn't really close friends with and ended up basically not being a friend, but I told them when I was contemplating harming myself. I didn't realize both their parents were first responders, and they ended up calling an ambulance to my house. I got taken to the hospital, given a psych eval. It was a whole thing. I was behaving like pretty manipulatively at that point, because that was when I told like my first ex-boyfriend, I would appreciate if you didn't date anyone until I was over you and stuff like that I didn't even realize was so manipulative. Looking back, at first I was really angry at that person for doing that and was like, she could have at least warned me, that she was going to do that. But looking back, it's like, you don't know how someone's going to react if you were to give them a warning about something like that. So look back and I'm like, that was a reasonable thing to do if someone is saying that they're going to harm themselves. Whatever. And I at least, was upfront about it. I clearly stated what I was feeling, and I wasn't trying to be manipulative about it. I thought I was, using a safeguard in telling someone. And I think I did do the right thing. I just maybe should have told someone a little bit closer to me that maybe understood my thought process a little more and I did tell her, I was like, I don't actually want to do it, but I'm just thinking about it. And it was reasonable that she responded the way she did. It just ended up being really expensive because I live in America and it was an ambulance ride and it was like thousands of dollars. So all that to say, I since came out of that experience being like, she did the right thing. That is the appropriate way to respond to someone handling that. According to other people, some months later, the supposed story is that that same person and the person I thought was my best friend, who was like one of only 3 people other than my family that knew about this, they had been going around outside the choir room telling basically anyone that walked by, like, did you hear Victoria was in the hospital? Did you hear Victoria was in the hospital? And then when they'd be like, oh my God, like, what happened? Is she okay? Be like, yeah, she's fine. I can't tell you, but like, I just wanted you to know she was in the hospital. Like, just dropping the fact that I was in the hospital and like not really telling anyone what actually happened, but just like telling anyone that would listen, like this, the one-liner of it all, which is shitty. I was kind of shitty to that, my former best friend too. And I still think about her and I feel bad that we don't have that friendship anymore. But I'm like, if that is true, I'm kind of glad I'm not friends with you anymore because you're a fucking horrible person for doing that. I was super manipulative. I was not a great friend either. That was just kind of shitty. But anyway, I had that experience under my belt already. And I come to the realization that is how, bar the telling everyone else about it, that is how you respond to that situation. So when this person is sending me basically veiled threats and allusions to harming themselves, and I gave them multiple ultimatums and told them, tell me or I'm going to do this, and they didn't, and they refused, I called the police. I don't remember if I called 911 or the non-emergency line. I don't remember. I think either one probably would have been appropriate because I didn't know what he was going to do. So like I may have called 911. I'm not sure, but called the police. Told him, I read them word for word exactly what he had sent me. You know, been like, I had been talking to this dude, we had hooked up. I said I didn't want to talk anymore because he'd, you know, just things hadn't been good. So I told him I didn't want to talk. He's been blowing up my phone. He sent this. He refused to tell me what he means. I'm really concerned for his mental health. I feel like he might, you know, hurt himself. And they were like, you know, valid, very valid. So they go to perform a wellness check on him. Because at a certain point, after he had refused to tell me what he meant by this text, he just eventually stopped responding. And, you know, that's when I called. Because that made me even more concerned. I guess they do a wellness check. They show up, whatever. Then he finally calls me back. After probably a half an hour, 45 minutes maybe, of ghosting me. After, you know, intentionally, it seems, trying to scare me. And he calls me and he starts antagonizing me as if I'm the crazy one. Of, what is even wrong with you? I was asleep. I guess he had sent those texts and then just turned his phone on silent and took a nap. But was like, I was asleep, like, you crazy bitch, like, what are you even doing? Acting as if I had, like, swatted him, as if I had, like, done this just for funsies out of absolutely nowhere. And was like, I was asleep. And I was like, well, you weren't answering me after I asked you to tell me what you meant by those texts. And he was just like, I was asleep. I was like, you weren't asleep when you were texting me that concerning ass shit. And I think I would like to think that I hung up on him. I don't remember, but it was just like, this is useless, whatever. Start the process of blocking him. I block his number. I forget to block him on Instagram, which I don't really know how I could have forgotten that. Or maybe I just got distracted, because while this is happening, while I'm in the process of blocking his number, all that, his mom calls me on a, you know, unfamiliar number, but I don't really know what's, you know, going on. I think at that point the police had called me back to let me know what had happened, and was like, he was fine, he was confused, but, you know, we did a wellness check, everything's okay, you know, it's good that you called, whatever. So his mom then calls me afterward as I'm blocking his number, and I think I blocked him on Facebook, stuff like that. And she goes, I want you to, let me put my headphones on. I want you to block all of my children on all of my social media, and I don't want you to have any contact with my family ever again. And I kind of blocked out the rest of what she said because I was just preparing my response in my head. But, you know, was acting as if I was just like overreacting and I just had caused her family so much stress for absolutely no reason. And I just respond and go, I actually did stop contact with your son. I told your son I did not want to talk to him anymore. And he responded in this way. He sent me this very concerning text, basically making it seem like he was going to hurt himself. And I asked him to clarify. He refused to clarify. I told him I was going to call the cops on him, and he still refused to clarify. So that's what I did. Do you want to know what this woman said in response to me? After I told her basically that her son had been harassing me because I gave him a response he didn't want. I didn't want to talk to him anymore. And I don't even think I said permanently, literally like just for a while, just because I said that I wanted a break from the back and forth and I didn't want to continue this dynamic that we'd had. And this entire thing, told her the text he sent, why I ended up calling, like all the details. Do you want to know what she said to me? I'll give you 3 seconds to guess. That's just what my son does. That's how he is. That's what let's go ASMR. That's just what my son does. That's just how he is. That's just the way my son is. And keep in mind, this is the same woman that, like, maybe 5 years earlier responds to her daughters acting in a way she doesn't like by striking them on the wrist bone with a wooden spoon. But when she's told that her son is harassing people, I feel like it's fair to use that word because he was continuing to bombard me and demand this certain response from me that I clearly didn't want to give him. Manipulating emotionally, threatening self-harm as a tool of manipulation, completely boundary stomping, everything in between. That's just what my son does. So to me, I feel like it's reasonable to deduce that I was probably not the first person he had done something like that to. It sounds like that's a pattern. I probably wasn't also the first person to tell you that he had done something like that. And instead of recognizing a fucking possible problem in his behavior, you actually write it off as like, oh, that's just what he does. You're overreacting. You're the one overreacting because that's just something he does. That's just a thing. That's just a quirk of his. He just threatens self-harm if women don't behave in the way that he wants. Or if they dare to not respond to him after telling him that they're not going to respond to him anymore because they don't want to, or they don't want to have the dynamic that they had with him anymore. And he throws a temper tantrum in the form of threatening self-harm and then refusing to clarify that he doesn't actually intend to harm himself. He's just using it as a tool for manipulation. That's just what he does. It's just something he does. It's a thing he does. So I don't remember how that interaction ended either. I would like to think I hung up on her too. Yeah, I blocked him on like Facebook. I blocked his number. I forgot to block him on Instagram until the next day when he DM'd me on Instagram. I remember I was in my chemistry lab and I just opened up Instagram, saw I had a DM from him, and he tried to like act as it just like all crestfallen and was like, hey, can we talk? And I just go, no, blocking you now. And I blocked him on Instagram. So I don't like using the word crazy, as someone who struggles with mental illness and stuff like that. And it's a very, loaded term. But like, I felt insane in that moment because like I was being treated like I was overreacting and I was being the nonsensible one for not being able to speak toxic manipulator, basically. Not being able to decode his insane behavior as, oh, that's just a thing he's doing to get this reaction from me. Like the desensitization to his insanity that was so present in her statement, like, I can't get over it. I think I told one of the girls, I like reconnected with them briefly to like tell them what had happened. And I remember her expressing fear of her mother. I don't remember what I asked her, if I really even asked her to do anything, but I remember her saying that she didn't want to talk about something with her mom, or she didn't want to bring it up because like her mom would beat her ass or something like that. Like expressing like I remember it feeling like pretty honest fear of her mom, which is unfortunate. So obviously the way that she was physically treated, it's not something I experienced, but it is something that I witnessed. And it might not be, I'm wondering, it may not entirely be my story to tell, but it is something I witnessed, and it's something that I think plays into how fucked up her mom's behavior towards me in response to her brother's manipulative, insane behavior. It just adds a dimension of hypocrisy, and I look back, I'm like, oh yeah, that's a boy mom. That's a toxic boy mom. She will physically strike her daughters when she's upset with them, for saying something mean to their sibling, but she'll completely just be like, oh, those girls are just being dramatic. Like, that's just a thing he does. He just, manipulates women to behave in his favor. It's just a quirky thing he does. So basically, toxic boy moms are alive and well, and they aren't always necessarily on TikTok. And they aren't necessarily always expressing their toxic boy mom traits through making weird exploitative videos of their daughters, or, jumping on their sons at football games, or, buying themselves a corsage to accompany their son to prom, or verbally expressing jealousy at their girlfriends, or all the insane things that toxic boy moms have become famous for. Some of them also do that. So that's my little story. So thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts. Please consider subscribing if you haven't already. Hit the notification bell to be notified when I post, which is pretty fucking often these days. I'm kind of killing the game, okay? I've uploaded like some kind of video every single day for at least 19 days. It might be 20. I think 20 days. Because from the 2nd to now I'm doing this on the 22nd, I think, not including today, it's still 20 days. But I'm normally better at math than this. But consider checking out my music, my website, and my socials. I hope you have a lovely day, and I will see you next time. Bye!